of Rotary International. So good morning, diversity, equity, and inclusion for District 5910. I am Demetrius Harrell, and I have served in Rotary since 1998. When we look at Rotary, there are those things that we really see ourselves doing, and that is through our united efforts. You just saw what the world sees Rotary as, Rotary International. And today we are going to talk about the colors of Rotary, the District 5910 DEI initiative. Many of you all may have heard the acronym DEI, but not really truly understood what this means to our district, to our clubs, and to our local members of our community. But diversity, equity, and inclusion is an initiative that we have taken a first step, the ground level of setting a foundation for District 5910. The chair of our District 5910 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, you will hear from him later in the presentation, is Mr. Mayor Leroy Hughes of San Augustine, Texas. I am one of those advisors on our committee, and our committee is very diverse and has multiple individuals participating and supporting our efforts. As a lifelong devoted Rotarian, I was invited into Rotary by what many have identified the image of Rotary today, by a gentleman who loved and was passionate about the world of Rotary. Little did I know how past District Governor Joe Byrd was beginning the conversation of bridging the gap through an initiative of DEI. You see, Dr. McKenzie was the only African-American in our club, and there I sat as the second woman and female youngest member of the club at that time. That was bridging the gap. Today, serving on a national DEI committee with National Hospice and Palliative Care organizations, and also the State Healthcare Association, DEI is making a difference, one correlated collaboration per initiative. It is through my relation that we will continue to cultivate change and make work more meaningful with Rotary. As Dr. Martin Luther King said, a genuine leader is not a searcher for consensus, but a molder of consensus. So as we see the climate change and we better adapt, we need to understand what this means to us by definition. And I've looked at a multitude of definitions, but I believe that this one truly and clearly explains diversity, equity, and inclusion. A term and a definition that Rotary International has already taken shape and built those key initiatives through education for us to continue to learn. The term is to describe programs and policies that encourage representation and participation of diverse groups of people, including people of different genders, races, ethnicities, abilities, disabilities, religions, cultures, ages, sexual orientation, and people with diverse background, experiences, and skills and expertise. While we are not a religious group, we are open to all individuals. And so it is our time to take shape and build our membership globally to represent all those who are within our community. Does your club represent in this manner by this definition? Diversity, equity, and inclusion, Rotarians supporting unity. Let's learn together what is important to our community to discover the ways that we will work together. You see, this picture does define different individuals of culture, of color, of ethnicities, of disabilities. It is truly a reflection of what we are to look at and what we are to look like. When we look at North America, we are not quite as diverse as we would see the rest of the world. But we must understand that as we are growing beyond the 1.2 million Rotarians around the world, we do have representation for Rotary International of every nationality, every culture, every background, every class. Where do our clubs begin with this initiative? Well, we also have developed a District 5910 initiative that we will be able to send out to all our 39 clubs and hopefully growing with our new e-club to have 40. The first thing, we must understand the phrase diversity, equity, and inclusion and know how it applies to you individually. One of our Rotarians has acknowledged, as she was immigrated into the United States from Cuba in 1962, when there was 3 years old by her definition of when she came. Growing up, she acknowledged that she was the only person that looked like her and was called names. And so she has always been sensitive to exclusion. Maria White, Rotary Club in Ohio, but founder of the Inclusivity Group. You see, we must know how Rotary organizations can create a culture of inclusion. It's all about the way people behave toward one another. To be inclusive is to be open, to be different. When we really want to take the initiative within our clubs and our communities, it is important that we see membership as a growth that matters. So how do we make a difference as Rotarians and grow our Rotary clubs? First, clubs need to put DEI on their agenda. Even if we don't know how it can truly apply to every level of our club, we must know that it absolutely does apply. Diversity is very broad, and it's not just about race and gender. Just think about how you would describe a majority of people in your club. Well, I don't ever like to refer to our clubs of this, but I have heard it is the white man's club. It is the way it was in the past. But we know that Dr. Sylvia has changed the shape of Rotary as being the first woman admitted into Rotary in 1986. But we must identify people in our community and outside of the norm. If we want our clubs to grow, we must need to think about how we can bridge the gap, because the world is becoming more diverse every single day, every single moment. How can we ensure positive outcomes? Change is uncomfortable. It's not something that everyone embraces. But for everyone, we need to lead gently and be sensitive and remember our mission. Amy and I and Ruth are all taking a course. There are 125,000 people in this diversity, equity, and inclusion course. And recently we heard a presentation on bias and stereotypes. And one of the speakers, Miss Valerie, referred to some of the eclectic evolution in DEI as that of a fortune cookie. One of those 125,000 members was offended. She said, at no restaurant in China, no Chinese restaurant that is authentic refers to a fortune cookie on their menu. You see, many of us would never imagine that a fortune cookie is not something that is embraced and loved by Chinese restaurants. Because in North America, we see them all the time. We crack them open and we look for the vision of how our day will go. But no organization should welcome people who don't share its mission and its values, to include everyone. Not going for diversity and values, not going for Rotary. The way we are going to grow is with people who are aligned with the values of Rotary, but helping them all feel included is important to our success, and it begins with you. You see, when we think about DEI guidelines, we have already created a guideline for District 5910. I have looked at other guidelines and compared it to many other districts that have taken on this initiative and began to embrace it and put it in all of their clubs around their districts. The first thing we must know is we must connect with local organizations that are supporting diversity, equity, and inclusions, and the efforts that they work to make sure that projects and events become valuable and viable. We can do that because we love service and we love service projects. We must also encourage people to know that we are looking at underrepresented groups to take leadership roles in our district. You see, we are doing just that in District 5910. We have had members that are from underserved and underrepresented groups. We will also encourage members to take the Building a Diverse Club course in our Learning Center. Already, Rotary International has set up educational tools and resources so that we will have more knowledge, and more knowledge is power. Learn more about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We will also talk about diversity within our clubs and among our members and create a member diversity and inclusion action plan. Diversify your club assessment tool and use that within our clubs around our District 5910. We will invite local diversity and equity and inclusion experts to speak at our club meetings, and we are working on developing a pool of those resources so that you will have them available. Everyone knows Dr. Bowtie Todd and what he can bring to our club. But what will we see as our mission? District 5910, through club support, all 39 and plus the one we are growing to see, we will achieve effective guidance to effectively promote diversity, equity, and inclusion beyond our present image. Within RI, we are cultivating and creating an organization that is more open and inclusive, fair to all, and builds goodwill and benefits our communities. At this moment, I want to introduce to you one of our very own Rotarians who has not only worked in this capacity, but knows and understands the importance to inclusivity. Ruth has been making an impact within her job. And so for her 5-minute spotlight, she will provide an introduction of who she is and the work that she has done at UTMB. She will provide us the vision and the perception of her work, and also how has her role made an impact in the professional environment in which she works. Thank you. And now we will present to you Miss Ruth.
Thank you, Demetris. Thank you very much. I've been in Rotary for 24 years. I'm currently an assistant governor. And my journey with diversity really began as a child. My parents were immigrants. There were many immigrant families in my neighborhood, so all of us immigrant and first-generation children attended elementary school together with children whose parents had been in this country for several generations. These children had forgotten about their immigrant roots. These children often made fun of the accents or clothes that the immigrant and first-generation children wore to school. I had the added element of also being the only Jewish kid at my school. My parents did their best to shield me, but I often came home with questions about words or names that were directed toward me or the other children. My parents were strong believers in the golden rule, and it was embedded in me to the extent that I developed a very good barometer for what was fair and what was not. I hadn't found my outside voice yet, but the voice inside me would start screaming every time I saw something or felt something was unfair. In junior high, I met my first gay friends. I didn't know they were gay. I don't know that they knew they were gay, but the other kids ridiculed them. My barometer was screaming, letting me know that something was wrong. Between junior high and high school, several of my friends transferred to suburban schools because their parents didn't want them attending a high school that was greater than 90% Black. My barometer was ringing again. The evening after Martin Luther King was assassinated, the singing group that I belonged to was bussed downtown to entertain the National Guard that had been brought in to quell the riots in D.C. But we were not allowed to go to Resurrection City to sing for the thousands of people that were quietly demonstrating for civil rights and for all the underserved. Again, my barometer was off the chart. I have always been saddened by the atrocities beset on one group by another across this planet. The injustices are overwhelming, but I do what I can do as an individual. I work on me. I have become more mindful of my interactions, how I show respect, how I'm courteous, how I'm fair, and try to understand how others are different, biased, and hateful. I found my voice as an adult at my first job in Cleveland, Ohio. There were many occasions when I reproached that leadership of my organization for unfair practices that undermined and overlooked employees for promotion. I had the mindset that I had to take that courage. You know, it was sort of John F. Kennedy's profile in courage that influenced me. You had to stand up for what you thought was right. Now, if you fast forward to 2014, I'm here in Texas working at UTMB, and I jumped at the chance to be a member of the Diversity Council when it was reactivated. The Diversity Council raised the bar. Not only did it focus on fair opportunities for recruitment, hiring, and promotion, but we addressed healthcare disparities as well. Healthcare is not fair. A provider's personal bias should not undermine the care that a patient receives. It is important for a provider to recognize how cultural differences can negatively impact patient outcomes and how those cultural differences may be from the patient toward the provider, as well as from the provider to the patient. It is important that patients, students, and staff feel respected and safe. So a couple of those examples. It's very important that the LGBTQ plus community feel welcomed when they go to see a provider. If you want to have trust, if you think about your own experience when you go to the doctor, you might have a tendency to withhold information that provider needs in order to have your complete health picture. So if a member of the LGBTQ community is not willing to share their sexual orientation, that doctor does not have a complete picture of that of the lifestyle of that patient. So we spent 3 years using what is called the Health Equality Index, which is a gap analysis tool that the Human Rights Commission in DC puts out annually to measure an organization's LGBTQ plus welcomeness. And using that, we identified where UTMB was doing well and where UTMB needed to improve. Some of the things that we changed were teaching our doctors and nurses that in the gay community, what we look at as husband and wife is going to look different, and that it's important for a loved one to be with their patient when that patient is at their end of life. Just because there's not a document that says married, they're a domestic partner and they should be allowed in. We have changed our single-use bathrooms to be non-gender specific so that they are open. They are open for people that are trans. We are currently working on creating a center of excellence for trans care. I'm trying to think of some of the other low-hanging fruit that we did. We've changed our advanced directives so that, again, a same-sex couple isn't made to feel unwelcome when a same-sex partner is in the room, or when we have two moms or two dads and a child. So our doctors have gone through a lot of sensitivity training and awareness. Some of those cultural things that I talked about, we're trying to teach our doctors to say, is there anything in this treatment plan that you're not going to be able to follow? Because when we have patients who come from cultures where people in authority are revered, they're never going to say to the doctor, oh, I can't do that, or that's against my culture, or that's not within my faith. So we've asked the doctors to ask the patient, is there something in this treatment plan you're not going to be able to follow? Like not being able to drive to a doctor's appointment or rehab on a certain holiday. So why is diversity, equality, and inclusion important to me? Because everyone should be at the table. No one should ever feel less than or be marginalized. Everyone's efforts must be appreciated. Why is it important to Rotary? It has to be if Rotary, and in this case, your club is going to prosper. It is also the foundation on which world peace can thrive. We have to pass the four-way test. Is it the truth? Probably not, especially if you have assumed something about someone else. Ask. Is it fair to all concerned? It has to be. It's your responsibility to make sure that all members feel welcome and don't feel excluded. Our cliques that exist in our clubs are not fair to all concerned. Are any members marginalized? Do women, younger members, older members, members with disabilities, or minorities feel comfortable and feel welcome? Can they get to the meeting? Are there steps? Is there an elevator that's working? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Most definitely if the first two are in place. Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Yes, again, if the first two are in place. So DEI is not a one-time class. It is a continuous journey of self-reflection and advocacy for others. It requires questioning what you think you know and being open to feedback and challenges. All of you have that same barometer inside of you that goes off when you see someone being mistreated. Use your voice, advocate for that person, advocate for that group. Any questions? Because I think I have a few minutes left.
Thank you.
If not, then it's back to you, Demetrius.
Thank you so much. That is so valuable because in our work, in our line of vocations, we too have to be the voice. We have to make a difference, and we can do that one Rotarian at a time. I am going to reflect just a moment on a video that I have that I want to present of just some of the questions that oftentimes we use when we don't realize that they can create a little bit of division. Oftentimes we don't realize that when we look at a person's skin tone and skin color, we begin to develop those biases. We sometimes cultivate those stereotypes. So give me just a moment to pull this up, and I think that you too will get some visualization of what it means to be looked at because of the color of your skin.
Good day. Today, we are going to be talking with some distinguished members of our community about a subject that we all find to be very new in theory, but been around for years in reality. And that is this term, acronym DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And I will, as the moderator, ask a few questions to these individuals and have them introduce themselves. My name is Demetrius Harrell, and I am 55 years old. And for me, this is a topic for much discussion, but it is even more so an opportunity for much education. So thank you all today, gentlemen and beautiful ladies. I will begin with you if you will give us your name and, if you don't mind, age.
My name is Isabel and I'm 26.
Thank you, Isabel.
My name is Claudia and I'm 29.
Thank you.
Owen, I'm 46. Juan, and I'm 22.
22. So you see, we have a very good baseline for individuals that have lived through various series of time and also generations. So thank you all for participating in this. And you would probably say that you have not been given an opportunity to hear my questions prior to. So this will be a very spontaneous way to talk about a subject that some of us may know a lot about and some of us may know very little about. It is just going to be a very short film today to talk about this acronym I call DEI. And so I want to ask a few questions because each of you all have been living at different times at a very short period of time in life, in reality. And I heard this morning that Prince William died at 99. And in our world, that seems like a very long life. So let's get started. I will just ask and start with you, Napoleon. What do you know about this new initiative called DEI?
Well, I see it as an opportunity for everybody to have an equal opportunity, in an all-inclusive manner, just in life.
Okay, wonderful. Isabel, what about you?
I would have to agree, I see us equal.
Equal, all right. Lauren?
I would have to say the same. It's a little hard. He put in very good terms, so it's hard to say something better.
Can add on to
Can't top
that. You know, one other thing too, we are living in this period called COVID. And so we are finding ourselves too, taking out a part of our identity. Part of who we are is behind the mask, and we're only able to see above the mask. And so I want to ask you all, do you feel that wearing a mask has improved your identity, lessened your identity, or impacted your identity? And let's see that be from the view of other people. Anyone can answer that.
I think we actually had an experience last week. We were at the news station. Of course, we took our mask off to get the news station, and there was a colleague of ours that had just gotten hired. And within the time that he's gotten hired, he's never seen me without a mask. So while we were in the studio, I greeted him, talked to him, and the whole time I saw him kind of act a little differently, not personal, like, hey, I'm someone you work with. And then later on in the day, he's like, you guys, I was standing beside her the whole time and I didn't realize it was Claudia. And his mind was just like blown. He's like, and the crazy thing is that you would have had your mask on, I probably would have known it was you.
Yeah.
So I think identity from a view of someone else definitely there.
Yeah. So it definitely has changed the reflection and possibly the impact that we have on society based on who we are. I feel that there is a sense too that some people that I know in the community very well, wearing the mask, I become almost invisible to them. Okay. All right, one, what do you think when people say, I do not see color?
I would think that they really just see people for who they are, not necessarily where they come from or their cultural or anything like that, just as a human being, as themselves.
Claudia, how about you?
I think it's a lot of what Juan says, but then also I feel like whenever you do love someone and you really do care about someone, you almost have to consider those kinds of things, because I feel like we all do come from different walks of life. And part of, kind of like Napoleon, Isabel, Juan, I have to kind of recognize, hey, I've had a different walk of life than I. So I think it's twofold. I agree with what Juan said, and also to the other side of it.
Because sometimes when a person may say, I don't see color, they may discount who you are based on your color. But I think we also take that into good consideration that when you don't see color, you could also be saying, I am not holding you to a greater or lesser standard because I'm not basing it on your color and the complexion of your skin. Claudia, what do you think people value most about you when you're going out professionally dressed or when you're in your sweats and hoodie? And do you think that they value sometimes your clothes more than they do you based on what you're wearing?
I think definitely yes, and it depends on where you're at. I feel like if I ever go on vacation and let's say I go into a luxury boutique, then if I'm over there dressed in sweats or I'll be dressed down, then the security is probably gonna follow me around the store. Versus if I go in sweats, run errands at a local grocery store, maybe not so much. Looking at it as in our community, local, I do feel that the appearance of dressing, it can be perceived as, okay, she dresses well, so she may be well off. Or she's wearing sweats, she may not be able to afford something nice.
Mhm. And do you think that that has even a greater impact on applicants when we talk about work environment, how they dress? Do you think that people may identify the dress and minimize their skills?
Most definitely. I feel like whenever an individual comes to an interview, I feel like that it's a big deal, you know. I feel like the employer has taken time out of their day to set up this interview. You set out time from your day to meet this employer. So I feel like taking it seriously, of course, you don't have to be all decked out in designers or anything, but at least take the time to at least look presentable.
Asian Americans and kind of an unfair justice, especially when I saw an older man who had just got his COVID vaccination, had beaten all these things, was ready to celebrate, get pushed to his death by a young 19-year-old. When we're talking about things like that being unfair, what do you think that we need to do as a society to ensure that everyone is safe and secure in just knowing and hearing that we can be encouraging? What would be some encouragement that we could offer?
I think when I think of that, you know, hate can be taught and so can love. So I feel as a society, we can love each other more, extend more grace to each other. Because just like I mentioned, hate is taught, I feel like love can be too. I think as a society, that's what we can do.
Nicole?
I'm gonna piggyback off of what Claudia said. I think love is the key. And with always the golden model is treat others how I want to be treated. If I want to be treated with dignity and respect, then I in turn need to do that to others.
So we see that many times people have a reflection of who we are, maybe even from the outward appearance, and also may look at those things in a sense of giving character. One of the questions that I also asked when people see you, what are some of the perceptions and misperceptions that they may have? He's 22. He also works in TJ Maxx. And he indicated that many times his coworkers always come over to him and say, hey, Juan, can you come over and help us? There's a gentleman over here speaking Spanish and we don't understand him. And he said, well, I won't understand him either because I don't speak Spanish. You see, sometimes a perception becomes what we assume is a reality, but it's not true. And so we have to be mindful, as Ruth indicated, in our lines of work, also in our club unity, to educate. And that is what this initiative will provide for us, an opportunity to continue the education and center around what we know and need to have within our organization. So that interview was an experience. There were questions like, did your company issue a statement of solidarity when we talked about Black Lives Matter? Who is in charge of hiring and making sure that we all have a piece of the American pie? You see, the colors of success is to ensure that we do see color and we do recognize that every single one of us have value. And so many times when we're not representing well or going in our community to ensure that all members are represented within our club, then we oftentimes will find ourselves not looking at Rotary from the perspective of where Rotary is. So we are going to share a video that is so beautiful. me, I think it stopped sharing.
Pause it for a minute.
Okay.
Is it still going?
It's still going, but
Okay, I thought you wanted me to share it. That's why I stopped your share.
oh, okay.
Hold on, but please regroup for 1 second. Can y'all hear it?
No sound.
There's no audio yet.
There we go.
This is great. Y'all love this.
And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. 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 She keeps me warm.
My heart doesn't see race. Love has no age limit.
That's my best friend.
We are neighbors and best friends.
We all have different religions, but we have universal love as well. I love my sister.
Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Just another example that sometimes when we're looking in a glass half full or half empty, we all have our reservations and hesitations, but we also have to understand that this new initiative, this desire to include everyone, we have to value their values, and we have to necessarily not always accept everything that we assume that might not be good for us by looking closer at how they can be a part of Rotary for All. And so not everyone is going to perceive these steps in an aggressive fashion. As you heard me say, we will have to take slow steps, but further engage and be educated on ways that we can adapt to the change. So when we think about these perspectives, we have to know that Rotary has no labels. Now we will hear from our chair, Leroy Hughes.
Leroy, are you able to unmute? There you go.
Okay. All right. How's everybody doing?
Woohoo!
Yes. Well, I'm fine outside all of my other little storm stuff that happened early this morning or last night one, I don't know which, but I'm Leroy Hughes, and I am a member of the St. Augustine Rotary Club, and I have served as president three times, and I've enjoyed it, and I enjoy everything that I do in Rotary. And if some of you were on in our little opening session that we was chatting in, you found out that I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi. And I grew up doing the civil rights movement there. And I've seen a lot, I've experienced a lot, and I have lived not for me or not for just my race, but in my history of going to college, getting out of college, working in an independent school district for 33 years. People used to tell me things like, well, you from Mississippi, and you see how the white race treated Black people. And you know, and so they were saying that I should have that same affection, that I should not be kind and not love and not honor other races, especially the white race. But that never crossed my mind, because I said, when things like that were done to me, it wasn't my opinion to do it to somebody else. So I have lived my life as a person who loves everybody, regardless of your race, creed, color, or gender. And I think that's very important in our day and time, and especially in Rotary. And I know that our communities should be the same way. So it's a growing process, and I'm just thrilled to see this process grow over and over and over, because we all are God's children. And God doesn't look at us as this race, that gender, or this gender. We all are his people, and that's the way that I look at the world. That's the way the world should be. And that reminds me of a legendary Hall of Fame basketball player, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He was on CNN maybe a month or so ago, and he was promoting togetherness. And he had T-shirts that said, "Make a friend with someone that doesn't look like you. You may be able to change the world." And that means a lot. And that means a lot in our time right now. And to me, this is what Rotary is on, that same mission. And it's a wonderful thing. It will make a wonderful community. It will make everything just super good. And we will look at people as people, and not as this color, or that religion, or this religion, or whatever, is that we should be able to talk and share experiences and do things together, regardless of who we are. And I'm so proud of being a Rotarian, and I heard the statements that were being said here about, Rotary is just for white men, and then we had females to come in. But I can say this, here in San Augustine, where I live, and like I said, I'm originally from Jackson, Mississippi. I went to college in Tyler at Texas College. I got my undergrad degree there in English, and I went to Stephen F. Foster State University and got my master's and mid-management in educational, in administrative education. And so that I have gone through these loops. And one thing that I am very, very proud of, that I was the first African-American to join the Rotary Club here in San Augustine. And it only came from another Rotary member who asked me, I'd like for you to be my guest at Rotary. And I said, sure, why not? And I came, and I enjoyed the program. And of course, the people that's in Rotary, I have known most of them since I've been in St. Augustine, and that's over 50 years. And so after that program, they said that we'd like to have you come back the next week. And I did. And when I came back, they said, if you just make one more meeting, you're eligible to be a member. And so I did. And I was a member. I'm trying to think of the year. I think it might have been 2014, I believe, or 2014. But anyway, that we have gotten a few more Blacks in Rotary, and by with the DEI process that's in motion, I've talked to other members of the Rotary, and that's what we all trying to do, is to get other people in that do not look exactly like we look. And everybody can say that. And I think that we are going to be successful. And when that happens, we can understand here that it makes a better world. And that's what we all want, is a better world that we all can live in. We all can go to functions together, and we could have barbecues, fish fries, crawfish boil, or whatever together. And that is a great thing if we all can accomplish that. So here I am pushing this to the highest because I believe in it. I don't look at what I grew up like and things like that, because I remember those things, which I can't forget, and I lived through those things. When I first came to Texas to go to college, and when other students found out that I was from Mississippi, they said, could you go back? Could you go back? Once you leave, you're disbarred from going back? I said, what are y'all talking about? He said, did you have to sign a letter or something? That was the vision that a lot of people had during the civil rights movement and the early and mid 60s, where I was in in Jackson. And that was what people thought. And I never thought that way because, and I've always said that we all are a product of our environment. So whichever way other people see the environment that we live in, we don't look at it from that point because it's just like everything else. We are all trying to survive. And people will say, well, back there then, I wouldn't have taken all that kind of stuff. I would have done this. You can talk about what you would have done, but you can look at it from this point, whatever our environment gave to us, that's what we live by. And of course, like we said, during the civil rights movement, it was because of not equal. The equality wasn't there for all people. So with Rotary and the things that we are doing, and I'm enjoying all of this to the highest, and I'm going to continue to work hard, and I'm just want to make this world a better place. And that's my little few comments. If any of you have any questions you would like to ask me, I'll be glad to answer them.
Demetrius, you are muted.
Thank you, Mayor Hughes. Wonderful comments, and we appreciate you, and we know we look forward to the work that we are going to do together. So the words from our chair, we want to move swiftly to look at what our committee members were, and Ruth has joined our committee members. And we also were going to hear from Ashley and Jacob. They are a husband and wife team that are going to be sharing with us the ways in which we can further embrace this through family and family unity. As a Rotarian, was someone saying something? As a Rotarian, just like we have embraced and supported our foundation, we must support DEI, because at the end of the day, it matters not what our complexion is, it matters not what our background is. If we are good for Rotary, we are good to support the foundation. The foundation, like DEI, ensures that we have clean water and sanitation. It ensures that hope and health in areas that were ravaged by polio diseases and even those natural disasters are embraced by unity. It is making sure that the economic development has new opportunities, that the financial support that we give to the foundation is through one Rotarian at a time. We have seen that our district governor has made this her initiative, that we give back to the foundation, that we can make a change and an impact one Rotary dollar at a time. So just like giving to our foundation works, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion will work in our way to grow Rotary. We are proud that 90.8% of the donations go straight back to supporting our service projects. So how do we start with the Rotary International resources? We must make diversity, equity, and inclusion a priority. It is that everyone makes sure that this is their responsibility, that Rotarians, no matter if they are at the club level, the district level, the zone level, or Rotary International level, we all can make a change. Talk about diversity in your clubs, among your members, and members make sure that you represent the diversity and inclusion as an action plan and part of how you can diversify your club. Go to Rotary International, look at that learning center and look at the ways in which that education can help you increase versus decrease. Meet with your club presidents and your club board and discuss the action that you will take to make sure that you look at our Rotary International and our District 5910 initiative. Amy will ensure that everyone sees this inside our chat, and I will make sure that anyone who wants a copy will be sent that copy. Invite local diversity, equity, and inclusion experts to talk. Connect with local organizations, encourage support with people and among people that are underrepresented groups in your community. In Nacogdoches, they have an Amish community. In Nacogdoches, they have various other communities that we don't have represented in our clubs. There are 2 clubs there, and we need to branch out and look at ways to make change, not just there, but all of our 39 clubs. Encourage club members to build a diverse club by going to the course and making sure that you have an advisory committee that will remember our work begins to build a better Rotary through our initiatives, that Rotary is for all. Remember the meaning of Rotary International, which is an international service organization whose stated purpose is to bring together business professional leaders in order to provide humanitarian service. Nowhere does it say they have to be of a certain race, religion, creed, or color to advance goodwill and peace around the world. It is non-political and non-religious, but it yet is open to all. The object of Rotary is to encourage and foster service. So let's embrace and empower one mission at a time. The mission of EDI, the mission that will embrace diversity, embrace change, and empower others to do the same. The initiative that will take equity and cultivate an impact in our community and our district around the world. We are one. Diversity, building more diverse clubs, clubs that look and represent our entire communities. Equity, being fair, making sure that if we are at the ball game and one is in a wheelchair, one is 5 years old, one is 35, and one is 75, everyone can see over the fence. We may have to build props, ramps, and also hold up each other so that we have an opportunity to advance movement. Inclusion, look at who we are. Is it represented well? Or are there not those who are represented in our club? Adaptability is key. When we adapt, we rewrite the thought process and we regain an insight by validating an initiative among the members that evolve in our club. Remove the I can't to I can. Don't dwell on the example of if you drop your sandwich on the floor, accidentally it was a mistake to drop it, but do you pick it up and brush it off? Or do you start to reenact the situation of how you made it look so good? But never would we ever say we will never eat again. So to eat again, we must look at Rotary and we must look at you. Membership is key. Diversify Rotary. What will you do? Will you take the D in diversity and dilute it, divert it, or dissolve it? Or will you say, I am a part of diversification? Will you take the E in equity and say, oh, evolution is not necessary? We will exit out. We will examine, but we will never execute. Or will you say, I am part of equity and I want to put the building blocks to ensure everyone has a seat at the table? Will you take the inclusion and the I and say, I am not a part of the bigger brand? Or I will do my part and make sure that next week I am inviting someone different to be a part. This is how we will take action by diversity, equity, and inclusion. We will be active in fairness and justice for all. We will value growth and center around our community and be welcoming. We will be transparent and we will value the perspectives of solidarity. We will be conscious of our community and we will appreciate the care by being thriving catalysts. Because we are about our four-way test and we know this is the truth, that diversity, equity, and inclusion, not only adopted by Rotary International, has to come down to our zone, our district, and be among our local clubs. We are knowing that four-way test is about being fair to all concerned. So how could we say that we would exclude? We are about being good stewards, and building goodwill and even better friendships. Some of us only know each other because of Rotary. Rotary has stood the test, and we are better together than we were ever apart. Building this goodwill is making sure that it is beneficial to all concerned. We know that there are many tools and there are many resources, but we have to invest. And when we invest, we will be our best. And so we thank you for listening to our diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we know together we are stronger. Thank you so very much. And we are better together. So never let us be separated. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Demetrius. Lots of great comments in the chat. I've got a couple of private messages that have asked Demetrius if you would be willing to give a version of this presentation to clubs should they ask you. So nothing like putting you on the spot, but unmute so everybody can hear.
Absolutely. I would be glad to. Thank you so much. I am honored and more privileged to be a part of what your vision is.
Right. I pinned myself and everybody doesn't need to see that. So hold on. Let me unpin me. How do I do that? Somebody help me. Demetrius, unpin me. Can you do that?
On your screen at the very top, Amy.
I can't because I'm the host. It won't let me unpin myself. Somebody do something to make me better.
Oh, you're doing great.
Anyway, let me just do something different instead. So I do want to thank everybody again for still being on the call. I did drop into the chat at some point the diversity, equity, inclusion document that Demetrius and the committee have created for our district. I will send that as an email to everyone. We had questions about being able to watch or replay the video that Demetrius showed about Love Has No Labels. So we will also email that. And then Bunny has dropped a document into the chat. Bunny, do you want to tell everybody what that is really quickly?
It's just a graphic, and I know I've seen Demetrius use it before, and it kind of helps visually illustrate equity versus equality.
Okay.
And it's that looking over the fence, and just because you have the same size box for everybody doesn't mean they can see over the fence, but sometimes you have to build bridges to make it truly equitable.
Excellent. All right, now we're going to move swiftly along to little Ava. I shouldn't call her little Ava, but my sidekick, my partner in crime. Ava is going to talk to us, and keeping in mind everything that Demetrius talked about and the importance of the Learning Center. So Miss Ava.
Thank you so much, Amy, for putting up my slides there. The Learning Center. First, I want to say that out of the 67 people originally came into the room, looks like we have a few that have dropped off and are going to come back a little bit later. There are 35 people that have already taken at least one class in the Learning Center. So I'm not exactly preaching to the choir, but almost. So thank you everyone that's already signed up for the Learning Center. Can you hear me okay? Okay, fine. Okay, so next slide. So what we're talking, what's all that stuff at the bottom? That was supposed to go away. I messed all that up. Anyway, so enhancing your leadership skills in the Rotary Learning Center. It's real easy. Sign up, you go to rotary.org, and then you go to My Rotary, and you can sign up in the Learning Center to take a class. Next one. The whole point is to make us better leaders. And I like this quote by George Patton. Don't tell people how to do things, tell them what to do and let them surprise you with their results. Again, George Patton. The whole idea of the Learning Center is to make us better leaders, both in Rotary and in our lives. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is what the Learning Center is, a professional development right at our fingertips. They're free, the courses are free, and if you've done anything in this last pandemic about taking classes, some of them are very expensive. So this is great information for no cost at all. There's 10 different learning plans, 86 topics, and each topic has anywhere from 1 to 15 different courses. Some of the ones that are more popular are how to run a webinar, Rotary Club Central resources, committing to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Wow, how timely is that? Promoting your club as people of action, leading a team, fundraising basics, role specific selections. And again, this is only just a few of the many that you can take. Next slide. Again, okay, it's easy. Lots of courses take less than 15 minutes. Next slide. Another quote that one of my favorites, live as if you were to die tomorrow, learn as you were to live forever, from Gandhi. Next slide. This is a recap, and I plan to do this, and we did it last quarter on the website, and I plan to do it each quarter on the website, kind of a recap. So the very first class was taken, the very first course was taken by Janet Ricketts on August the 26th, 2018. She actually took 2 or 3 the same day, but I pulled out secretary training. On March the 31st, which was the end of this quarter, 890 courses in the Learning Center have been started by 77 different Rotarians. And again, this has been since 2018. Of the 890 courses, 270 have been completed by 39 different Rotarians in our district. Okay, during the first quarter, and this is the recap that I plan to give each quarter and put it on the web.